Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack on with today's first story, which comes from a throwaway account and says, my 21 male boyfriend refuses to get a job and it's ruining our relationship. 19 female. I, female 19, have been with my boyfriend, male 21, for just under a year, 11 months or so. I finished college with great qualifications. I live in England for context and have always been a hard worker. I knew what I wanted out of life from a young age. I am now in the police and adore my career. It's what I've always wanted. My boyfriend is an entirely different kettle of fish. He has 0 GCSEs, no college qualifications, and has only managed to hold down one job his entire life, for 8 months, and left because he didn't get on with his boss. I wasn't with him at the time of this job. Since then, he has gotten no job offers and turned down the one job offer he got because he didn't like the sound of it. I've cut him so much slack with this job situation. He was raised in an awful household. He was consistently moved from house to house depending on what boyfriend his alcoholic mother had at the time. These boyfriends commonly abused my boyfriend and his mother. I assume this would have jeopardized any education around 12 to 16 years of age. However, no job in almost 1 year. He now lives with his grandmother, claims universal credit and spends it all on tattoos or cigarettes, turns down anything the job center offers him, and at the cost of sounding cruel, he lives in a pigsty. Last time I visited his house, I ended up covered in bedbug bites, had the bath in dead flies. There was rotten food in the bathroom bin, and the kitchen was full of moldy, dirty cups and plates. He cannot be bothered to clean mess, even though he does nothing all day but sit at his PC and play video games. I've offered to help him get into therapy, but he insists he doesn't have a poor mental state. I wrote his CV. I referred him to some of my family members, as some of them own businesses. I suggested attending college again and wrote a personal statement for him to send to local colleges. I've tried everything and to no avail. I am moving out very soon as I have found a lovely rented property in my area, but I can't let my boyfriend live with me because I'm too scared he will not find a sustainable job and will eventually lean on my income. My family do not like him anymore. I come from a fairly well-off background and they just view him as a lazy mess who doesn't pull his weight as an adult. However, I do love this man. He almost worships the ground I walk on and he is amazing to be around. But at this point, his affection is not enough to keep me in the loop. I'm so lost on this and I'm starting to think he is almost convinced he will never work in his life. I don't know what to do. But VanMan32 says, sounds like you already know what to do, but just need to hear it from someone else. Leave him. Don't already start having dependents right when you're starting your life. And quotes, I'm moving out very soon as I found a lovely rented property in my area, but I can't let my boyfriend live with me as I am too scared he will not find a sustainable job and will eventually lean on my income. Then says he's a big boy. He can figure things out. Right now, he's just looking to you to continue his lifestyle. And quotes again, my family does not like him anymore. I come from a fairly well-off background and they view him as a lazy mess who doesn't pull his weight as an adult. However, I do love this man and he almost worships the ground I walk on and he's amazing to be around, but at this point, affection is not enough to keep me in the loop. It goes on to say, they are right 100%. He hasn't been pulling his weight and I don't see it happening anytime soon. Affection stops meaning much if you have to start supporting him financially. You're only 19. OP responds and says thank you for this. I said in another comment that I posted this to really just get it in my head that he isn't worth it. I'll speak to him tomorrow and meet him in person, and to be honest, I am finished now. Even if I love/care for him, we'll try to get around to an update. Trish says, I'm having a difficult time understanding why a capable, smart woman with a solid career would choose to stay with a grown man who refuses to work and doesn't even care if he's living in filth. OP responds and says, hey, thank you for this. I just needed people to honestly push my head in and make me realize finally. I'm not the best when it comes to breakups, and no one is, of course. I think I'm just sticking around to see something that won't happen. Has all the qualities of an amazing boyfriend, just not the job and education. I've had awful relationships up until this, and he treats me well. But I think I'm more of a trophy to him than anything. Not fun, lol. OP continues, he's adamant that he's been trying to find a job since November 2022. I'm not sure where you are from, but in England it's extremely easy to find a job with zero qualifications, so I find that hard to believe. He can't work in customer-facing jobs either, as he has face tattoos, very likely to not pass interview stage. Little Layla says, does he worship you or the fact that the only one cutting him slacks all the time and spoiling him like a big mummy? OP responds saying, lol, good way of phrasing it, and you're probably correct, which is humiliating at its best really. And one more comment from Def Demi who says, what are you doing with this lazy, dirty, aimless loser? You need to see your own worth and do better. Dump him. OP responds and says, I know, I really do. I'll meet him tomorrow and address this, and I'll try my best to get an update. But I work with very irregular shifts. I've said in previous comments that I just needed this out there so people could cut it with me and tell me what's what. Thank you for your comment. I appreciate it. Then OP kindly updates their post, which says, hi all, sorry for the delay on the update. I've been on very long shifts with work, so it completely skipped my mind. Previous post on my profile if you haven't seen it. I went round to his house on Saturday after I had a brief break from work and said to him I was ending the relationship because of his lack of ambition and laziness. As guessed, he broke down into tears and promised he'd try harder and sign on to the other agencies that would help him do better, work on cleanliness, etc. I told him I'd waited long enough and tried to help him, but he refused to take it, and hopefully me leaving him will give him a bigger push to do better and do well for himself. Then came the self-harm threats. I asked to leave as a while had passed and I said what I wanted to say, and he claimed he was already self-harming from the way his life was and me leaving will push him over the edge. I said I still cared about him, but I couldn't help with that, and he followed me to my car and I drove off. I was worried he was sincere in what he said, so I rang emergency services for a welfare check. I also blocked him on everything to stop him from potentially spam calling me. That's the end of that chapter. It does suck, but I knew I needed better. Also means I don't have to worry about moving into my own place with someone leeching off of my wages. Thank you to all the strangers here for the advice. I appreciate it a lot. And I think to me, OP did everything they could in this situation. In the original post that they tried to help out and they offered so much to the boyfriend to try and get him on the right track, giving him those chances to change, but he just failed to do so. And then went round to say, you know, enough's enough, the relationship is over. And when these self-harm threats come through, she even went ahead and set up a welfare check for him. And then, of course, blocking him on everything so he can't drag her back into it kind of thing. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story, which comes from baby named Throwaway and says, am I the a-hole for not wanting to name my unborn daughter after my husband's high school girlfriend? My husband, 35, and I, 31, are about to be first-time parents, as I'm currently 35 weeks pregnant. We found out it was a girl and my husband suggested the name Tiffany. I immediately fell in love with the name. I asked him where he got it from and he told me that he heard it while watching a movie and it stuck with him. I didn't think much of it. We decided that we both loved the name and that it was going to be our little girl's name. However, a few days ago, my sister-in-law and I were talking and we got onto the topic of the name. She mentioned how surprised she was that I agreed to that name because she'd never want to name her child after her husband's high school girlfriend. I was really confused at first and asked her what the heck she meant. She told me that my husband dated a girl named Tiffany from 10th grade until they were juniors in college. While I knew my husband had a long relationship in high school and college, I never knew the girl's name. My sister-in-law could tell how upset I was and assumed that my husband told me where he got the name from. I told her that he told me that he heard it from a movie and he never mentioned it was an ex-girlfriend's name. She apologized and told me that she didn't mean to upset me. I wasn't upset with her though. I was and still am so angry at my husband. After hanging up, I confronted my husband and asked him if what his sister said is true. He tried to blow it off at first but eventually admitted that it's true. We argued back and forth for a while before I told him that I would not name my daughter after his ex-girlfriend, and I refused to use the name Tiffany anymore. He tried to convince me that it wasn't a big deal, but it is to me because 1. He lied to me about where the name come from. 2. I don't want to look at my daughter every day and remember that she's named after my husband's ex-girlfriend. And 3, it makes me feel like he still loves her. As far as I know, they're not in contact and haven't been since they broke up. He told me that I was overreacting, acting like a child, and that I can't change my mind now since I'm due in 5 weeks. I feel hurt and betrayed. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to name my daughter after my husband's ex-girlfriend? And we've had some stories like this in the past where people, you associate names with stuff that's happened in your life or people that you've met in your life. And I think last time I brought up my teacher friend who I spoke about, and they was really conscious of what they would name, their future children, just because they've met so many children in school teaching these kids, and some of them have been absolute little terrors. You sort of say what kind of names, and you could give off a list of names that there's no chance any of their children are going to be named after those children. And I'd feel exactly the same as OP in this situation. Your partner's ex, naming your child after your partner's ex, that's definitely not good. Not the a-hole to me, but a deleted user says not the a-hole. If he thought it wouldn't be an issue that it was his ex-girlfriend's name, he wouldn't have lied about it plain and simple. He deceived you into agreeing to the name. He continued to lie to you when you confronted him, and now he's trying to force you to keep the name with ridiculous logic. You can't change your mind 5 weeks before giving birth. What kind of BS is that? Even if you would have been okay with the name originally, had he been honest, now it's tainted by the fact that he lied to you about it. Is he usually like this? OP responds saying, I would normally say he's not usually like this at all, but now that I'm thinking about it, it's been acting weird for the past few months and has been kind of distant. I have no idea what to do at this point. I feel completely clueless and lost. Loser Rat says not the a-hole. He's definitely still got some type of feelings for her. I'd see a couples therapist if I was you. Please change the name and don't enable him/whatever he's holding on to. OP responds and saying, that's what I'm worried about. I've never been insecure about his old relationships, but finding out that he tried to name our daughter after his ex-girlfriend made me feel so small and insignificant. I'll mention couples therapy, but he's always been against any kind of counselling, so I doubt that conversation will go well. Done the Rap says, and quotes, I can't change my mind now since I'm due in 5 weeks, and says, that's the biggest piece of bullcrap I've ever heard. There are plenty of people who see their baby for the first time and decide they don't look like the name that they chose and then change it. Do not let him bully you into a name that you don't like, because you will 100% regret it and it will breed resentment. Not the a-hole. If he had been honest from the beginning, then you could have maybe gotten past it, but even then it's effing weird. Spiker713 replies to that and says, yep, I'm one of those. Husband and I decided not to find out the gender of our baby. We came up with 3 names for each gender. The top of the girl list was my favorite name since forever, and we assumed that would be her name. During the couple of hours husband went to pick up our oldest to meet the baby after she was born, I decided new baby wasn't favorite name, and told husband as soon as he got there with oldest kid. New baby is now a teen and fits the second name on the list perfectly. And one more comment from Spicy Princess who says not the a-hole. What you name your child is a decision you both should be making together. If a name makes one of you uncomfortable for any reason, then that should be respected. But it's not like it's just any reason. Not wanting your daughter to have the same name as your husband's ex is perfectly reasonable. What the F is wrong with your husband for not being able to get that and for lying about it in the first place? So firstly, OP edited their post and says, after I finally got him to admit the truth, I asked him why he wanted to use that name in the first place. He told me he thought it was pretty and that his ex-girlfriend was such a good person that he wanted to name our daughter after her, but thought that I wouldn't agree to it, which I don't. So he told me he heard it from a movie instead of being honest. Edit 2, I just wanted to thank everyone so much for the support. Reading through your comments has really helped me realize that I'm not going to be manipulated into naming my daughter anything but what feels right to me. My husband slept over at his parents' guest house last night. Because of the quarantine, he didn't go near his parents, don't worry. Because I feel like I needed some time away from him. I'm going to talk to him when he gets home today though. I'll update everyone once we've had a chance to talk and let you know what ends up happening. In the meantime, I posted on Name Nerds to get some ideas for new names. I'm really excited to look into names, so if you'd like to suggest any names, you can find my post on my profile. I'd love any and all suggestions. So then OP updates the post, which says, I originally posted this on relationship advice, but it was removed for some reason, so I can't respond to anyone in the comments. However, I've been reading through all the comments and they've really helped me a lot. If anyone would like to offer advice, I'd appreciate it a lot. But now I've decided that I'm going to take the time I need to think about everything before making a decision on what to do. Again, all advice is appreciated and welcomed. Thank you so much. I recently posted on Am I the A-hole, asking if I was the a-hole for not wanting to name my unborn daughter after my husband's ex-girlfriend. Basically, my husband suggested a name Tiffany for our daughter without telling me that it's the name of his ex-girlfriend. Instead, he told me it was from a movie. I eventually found out that it's his ex-girlfriend's name and decided that I won't name my daughter Tiffany. My husband called me childish and told me that I couldn't change my mind so close to the due date, 5 weeks away. A lot of people have mentioned that he might be cheating on me with his ex-girlfriend or he still has feelings for her. I've thought about it a lot, and based on how he's been acting the past few months, they might have a point. So when my husband got back from spending the night at his parents' guest house, he had no contact with his parents. I demanded that we have a serious talk. It was pointless at first. I basically just kept repeating the same thing over and over again as he refused to comment on anything I said. Finally, I asked him if he was cheating on me. He immediately denied it, but I didn't believe him. I continued to pester him about it, and he finally admitted that he'd been texting his ex-girlfriend for a little bit, but that's it. Again, there was no way I was going to believe him. I asked him how long they've been in contact. He told me not long, but I wanted a real answer, so I asked again. He told me for a few months. Basically, from what he told me, he was in contact with her for a few days before we found out it was a girl, and that's why he suggested the name Tiffany to me. We found out it was a girl at 22 weeks, and I'm now 35 weeks pregnant. So he's now been talking to her for about 13 weeks behind my back. I basically just cried and kept asking him questions to get as much information about it as I could. He kept trying to avoid each question, but I finally got answers out of him. He told me that she contacted him because she was getting married and was having second thoughts. My husband admitted to me that talking to her made him realize that he never stopped having feelings for her, but that he loves me too. And the reason he suggested the name Tiffany to me was because he knew he couldn't leave me to be with her, so he wanted something to honor her with. Which doesn't make sense, because it sounds like she's effing dead when she isn't. I made him show me the messages, and they were flirty with hearts and winks, but nothing was sexual. From what he told me, his ex went through with getting married, and they both knew they couldn't be together again, but they enjoyed talking with each other. We both ended up crying, and he kept begging me not to leave him, but it's wrong. It's so wrong. I don't know what to do. I'm lost completely. I tried to get him to leave for a few days and go back to his parents' guest house, but he refused. Now I'm sleeping in the guest bedroom, which only has a twin bed because he's refusing to sleep anywhere but the master bedroom because he wants us to go back to normal. I feel like my entire world has collapsed. And I know people will tell me to leave him or divorce him, but I'm 5 weeks away from giving birth to our daughter. And with the pandemic happening, I don't know what to do. I need help. The stress and emotional pain is making my stomach and back ache, and I feel like I'm going to throw up. I feel so hurt and confused and betrayed. What should I do? Please help. I apologize if this post is all over the place. I'm just way too upset to actually care. If I left out important information, or if you have questions, I'll answer anything. I just need advice and guidance. And as you can see, that one is just inconclusive because that's where that one ended. But what would you find yourself doing in that situation? I'll be really interested in your opinions on this one. I mean, there's absolute red flags all over the place, absolutely. But do you ever think a relationship like that can be repaired? I think for me, the trust is absolutely gone. How can you trust someone that's been, talking to his ex behind your back like this, trying to name your child after his ex in some sort of honor thing? And it had me thinking, imagine Tiffany, did Tiffany know about that, about the whole name thing? And what about when she eventually finds out that, her ex is named her child after you? That's a weird situation in itself. If I found out like an ex had named their child after me and they're in a committed relationship, how strange would that be? Holy moly with cherries on top. Now, what do you guys make of this situation? As I said, would love to know your thoughts on it. Do you ever think it could be repaired? Would you be out of that ASAP? Let me know your thoughts. Once again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being involved in today's stories. Your love, your support and time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Much love.